interesting story in the New York Times about some unexpected migration. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. I mean, it makes perfect sense. The headline here is how the path to home ownership runs through Mexico. San Diego residents are moving to Tijuana to get more for their money. Some hope to save for down payments on houses that are way out of reach north of the border. They say in San Diego, the median sales price of a family home, single-family home, hit $1 million in April, and a February report declared the city the least affordable metro area in the U.S., bypassing San Francisco in large part because of a 14% increase in median home sales prices for the year. Rent also has jumped up massively. They say the rise in home prices pales in comparison to the jump in rents. In June, the rent for a one-bedroom home, almost $3,000, $2,901, according to Rent.com. That was 19% higher than a year ago. Two-bedroom apartments averaging almost $4,000, $3,772. Nationally, the average is about $2,000. So you have this increasing trend of people who are able from the pandemic to work remote, who are able to earn their U.S. salaries, moving across the border where rents and home prices are actually obtainable, so that they can, afford to live basically and potentially sock away a down payment for a house back on the other side of the border in the future.
Apparently the same thing's happening with gas. Ciudad Juarez, gas is $3.11. So apparently gas is that much cheaper in Mexico, where people are literally driving across the border, filling up their tanks, and coming back to the United States because the Mexican government is heavily focused on drilling and refining as much gas as possible, and they also have much more protectionist policies in place for their consumers than apparently the United States does as one of the largest energy consumers on Earth. So, I mean, I think this is just insanity, right? It's like when Bernie on the campaign trail would talk about all those people who go to Canada to go buy insulin, which is, what is this? Literally regulatory arbitrage in order to get cheaper gas or to be able to go afford to buy a home. This is probably not good for Mexicans either. I mean, they don't probably want all these Americans moving in.
Gentrifying and pushing rents up. That's
jacking up their rent and home prices. So I'm sure they're pissed off. Actually, I'd heard a story about Mexico City. It was like posting signs in their cafes being like, Americans go home, because people were pissed that people were coming to Mexico City to live like this itinerant lifestyle while working remotely. And they're like, you're taking up all this space.
Yeah.
And look, it causes, obviously, it's pitting people against each other, not necessarily a good thing. So I don't know. I mean, it just highlights how broken the system is. When
it does. The housing piece is really a massive problem. And, before we started talking about inflation, house prices have been skyrocketing out of reach for decades.
Oh, yeah.
But somehow that's not considered inflation, even though it's obviously like a core component of being able to live. Education, housing, and healthcare prices have been going up and up and up and up, way beyond, way outside of what inflation has. And those are the bedrock pieces of a sort of stable middle-class life. Mm-hmm. And that is just increasingly out of reach for Americans. So you see strategies like this. One of the women that they interviewed here, she actually teaches at San Diego City College. She is paying only $700 a month in rent for a two-bedroom, two-story house, as opposed to about $4,000 for the same would cost in San Diego. She does say that it's more stressful. The roads have more potholes in them. The air quality is less. She said she actually hasn't had much of a problem with crime, even though that's kind of the narrative about Tijuana. So she would rather be in San Diego. She can't afford it. So it is a sad state of affairs that you have so many Americans who just can't afford the basics of living in the town where they work. You see this internal migration as well. You've seen some of these sort of boom towns around the country. We covered a story of, I think it was somewhere in Oregon, that the local people who had been born and raised there, they were being priced out of their own communities because you had this massive influx of people who are earning, Silicon Valley level salaries, but are able to work from anywhere in the country. Now, that's a great thing for them that they're able to move around and have affordability, but we should be able to have, housing that's affordable for everyone. And of course, exacerbating this entire situation is the amount of permanent capital that is going in and buying up single-family homes and further jacking up the prices. So just, I guess, a symptom of a really broad problem across the country.
Yeah, I think it is. All this regulatory arbitrage, it has all kinds of insanity and follow-on effects. And it just shows you that, like, when people have to do that, things are bad. Like driving across the border to go get gas. What kind of country are we living in here?
Yeah, indeed. All right, more for y'all later. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.